How's it going, guys, and welcome back to another video. So in this video we are going to be making a guide on the bosses in ED1. Now, I have spoken a lot about ED1 in the last few videos that I have done, and from that I've had a lot of questions on ways to get better for people and tips and stuff like that, and just basically dealing with the bosses mechanics as a whole. So rather than me going and answering every single individual person, I will now be able to link you guys this video. Hopefully you find it useful, and hopefully I can answer plenty of questions, and hopefully by the end of it, even if you can't get any kills, you'll be able to get some, and if you can get kills, hopefully be more efficient, and hopefully you'll find it a lot more easy. Now, usually I don't actually make guides for this game, especially PVM guides, as I have a lot of room for improvement as well, and there is definitely a lot of stuff for me to learn through PVM, and even on this boss as well. However, that being said, that doesn't mean that I can't give you guys a basics guide going over the bosses individually, talking about the mechanics they have, giving you a way to deal with those mechanics, and giving you a few pointers here and there to make your kills better, make your kills more consistent, and maybe even make them a lot more efficient. I'm not going to be going massively into depth about gear and stuff like that, as a lot of you will probably know what the best sort of gear to bring is. Just bring the best gear that you have for the combat style that I recommend, and basically I will show you a screenshot of my inventory, which you can then copy if you would like to do that, and we will move on to the kills from that point. However, one last thing before we start, do share your thoughts about this guide in the comment section below, as I will be very interested to hear what you guys think about it, as if enough people find it helpful and maybe this type of guide being different from others is more useful to specific people, then who knows, maybe I'll make a few more guides just like this for other bosses as well. Anyway, the very last thing is, of course, if you find this video helpful, make sure to leave a like on it, and of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe as well. But let's not waste any more time, let's talk about the gear very quickly. Okay, so let's quickly go over the gear. This won't take too long, as basically you can use any combat style in ED1. All of them work absolutely fine. Melee is just slightly harder to use, so I'd recommend learning on magic or range. You're going to want to bring your best gear that you have for each combat style. It doesn't matter if you are using normal tier 90s or not, it's still worth bringing, as the profit you'll be making will cover the costs absolutely easily, no problem. However, if you do have access to elite armors, then bring those along, as it does not degrade in elite dungeons, and it will save you a lot of money on costs, as you don't have to repair your armor or anything like that. Otherwise, just bring the absolute best you do have. Let's just talk about the specific things that I needed to go over in gear, things that will help you out, and things that I recommend you bring. That is going to be the Dominion Mines. These will help you kill the crystals a lot quicker. I will talk about that when we get closer to it though. If you don't have them, don't worry, you can still do ED1. Seriyu will just be slightly slower. The next thing is going to be the adrenaline potion. Make sure you've got an adrenaline potion. Most of you will bring that when you come to a boss anyway, but it's definitely absolutely needed for the crystals on Seriyu. It will make it a lot easier if you want to jump into things like 2 or single jump cycles. Definitely bring that along. The next thing is going to be the Illuminated Book of Chaos. This is the Zamorak book, and if you have the pages in there and activate it, this will proc every now and again doing AoE damage, makes clearing the dungeon a lot quicker, clearing minions, makes it so much faster. The next thing is the Mechanized Chin Chompers. If you're using range, bring these along. You'll be able to pull the mobs in a way where you can stack them up, and you can clear out the mobs a lot quicker with the Chin Chompers active. And also, if you're on magic, you could probably bring along Barrage if you Fortic. That way, every time you use a Fortic, it will use the Barrage, and it will clear off minions a bit quicker as well. Otherwise, that is it for the gear. The EOF that I've got doesn't have anything in it, it's just Gothic Staff, so it's not anything that I'll use for range. I would recommend bringing the Vulnerability Bombs, but other than that, you don't need to worry about anything else. Just look through my inventory, match that with some food and stuff, and you'll be good to go. Anyway, let's jump into the first boss and talk about that. Okay, so the first boss is the Sanctum Guardian. This is a awkward boss for people who are learning, in my experience at least, and from people that I know, but once you've got it down, it becomes really simple and fairly quick, so definitely don't worry if you struggle at first, you will pick it up and it will get a lot easier. Like I said, in this I'm going to be going over the mechanics and just showing you an example of them as I do talk about them, and giving you a way to deal with them, and once we've done that, that is basically it. We'll be moving on to the next boss. To begin with this fight, you're going to want to be protecting from range. Make sure you've potted up, done all that good stuff, and then you're going to want to drop your death swiftness and tag the boss. Make sure you start the fight where I am here. There's a reason for that, and I will explain that as we get to the mechanic, but Imagine the room was split in two. You're going to want to stand on that line that splits it. That's where you start your death swiftness, and then you will see, as I do now, I step to the left as soon as I tag the boss. Make sure you do that as well. Step to the left. It will avoid you taking a lot of damage from one of the mechanics, but we will talk about the mechanic when we get to it. So for now, you're going to want to start just doing normal DPS rotations. However, your first mechanic is going to be happening very, very soon, so keep an eye out for that. The first mechanic is going to be the Sanctum Guardian using a splash attack that will do a melee damage to you. You're going to want to protect from melee when you see this happen. You will notice this happening by he will put his hands under the water, and as soon as you see him move his hands down, you're going to want to protect from melee or use resonance if you want to get a good heal from that, and that will basically just deal with that for you. If you protect from melee, you'll probably take about 1k to 1.5k damage, or if you don't have it, then you will be taking between 4 and 5k damage, and that is definitely something that you either want to res or reduce with that protect from melee prayer. As soon as you take that one hit from melee, or whether you res it, you're going to want to change back to protect from range, as he will continue attacking with range from this point. Okay, so stay on your toes because the next mechanic is coming very, very quickly, but if you step to the left like I mentioned at the beginning, then you've already prepared for this mechanic, so don't panic. You've pretty much done all of the hard work so far. The next mechanic is a big water blast, and this will start on the line that we drew halfway down the room, and he will always start it at the exact same point. This will then move around the room, and if you get caught in it, you're going to take a lot of damage. If you get caught in it and move with it, then you take tick damage, and it will probably kill you straight away. It is typeless damage, so prayers do not reduce the damage that you take from this. The reason you stood to the left hand side is because this will then start and you will not get hit by it. Once the beam has moved from that starting spot, you're going to want to just step over to the right hand side of that invisible line from that halves that room, and once you are on that side, you are safe to just stand there and DPS. You can flick to soul split for this whole time that he's using the special attack, as he will not attack you with anything else, so you can get some good heals in here as well, so definitely worth doing. Once that beam does come back and he stops doing that, chuck back on your protect from range and move yourself to the left hand side of the half of the room. This will prepare you for the next mechanic, which we're going to talk about now. Okay, so next up, he's going to be putting a smoke cloud on you, and you will have a timer above your head to place where that is going to go. If you place that in the middle of the room, you're going to make your life a lot more difficult, as if you step in it, you're going to be taking a lot of damage, you're going to get stunned, and you'll probably die. These are deadly. Make sure you place them in a good place. I'm going to show you, though, where I place them, so you get a good idea of where to be putting these. Okay, so once you see that bar appear above your head and you have this smoke on you, you're going to want to make sure you place these somewhere that you're not going to be returning to for the rest of the kill. So, the way that I do this is I place them off to the left-hand side of the room. I'll show you now on a freeze frame of how mine looks at the end of a kill, where you can see all the smokes placed, and then it gives you an idea of what places you can put these down. To place them, basically just run over to the place that you want them to drop and stand there for a second, and as soon as that bar runs out, it will drop some smoke. The second that smoke drops, you're going to want to get out of it. Just get out of it, get back into the normal land, and you'll be alright, don't worry. Don't go back into smoke at this point, otherwise you're going to take quite a lot of damage. Now, the reason that I place the smokes on the left-hand side rather than on the right is if you do place it on the right, you absolutely can. But after one more auto attack from when the smoke drops, there's going to be the water blast again. And if you are on the right-hand side of that room, you're going to get caught by it. So the reason I placed it over to the left is you're just already prepared for it. You don't have to get on the other side, so it's not a problem. On Reckless Aura, you're probably going to get about 3 or 4 of these smokes, maybe 5 if you are getting used to the boss and taking a little bit longer than you would normally. But just remember to keep them out of the way, chuck them off to the left as far as you need to, and you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, so after this, the water blast, like I said, will be done after one auto attack, and then basically the fight will refresh. You'll have the water blast, then you have the melee hit, and then you have the smoke. Once you get his health quite a bit lower, he will spawn 2 little minions that will attack you, but you can just pretty much ignore them. I don't think I've ever killed them on this boss, so just ignore them unless you are absolutely struggling with food. Then maybe you might want to clear them off, but this boss really doesn't cause you to eat that much food, and to be honest, you probably won't even notice that those things are there. So next up we have Masuta, and this is a boss that some people really struggle with and others find really easy. But long story short is basically kite the bot around, don't let him hit you with the big spin attack that he does, and you'll be pretty much good to go. Of course you will have to deal with other mechanics as well, but I'm about to go over those now. All of them are fairly easy to deal with, so it's not too much of an issue. The biggest thing in my experience is just basically stay away from him when he's using his spin attack. Anyway, the things you need to know before the fight is you're going to be protecting from melee for the majority of the fight. He will throw out random range attacks, but it's not too much of an issue. And once you reach phase 2, you will be using protect from magic, but obviously I'll talk about that as we get to it. And then on the last phase, you'll be using protect from range, flicking to protect from magic every now and again. So yeah, there's 3 phases, and the first phase is, in my opinion, probably the place where most people are going to die if they do. So in the first phase, your biggest worry is going to be his hurricane attack. Now you can see this by he will start spinning and it will hit you for quick melee damage in up to 3 spaces away from him. So you're going to want to stay away from him when he does this, or use devotion, but keep an eye on your timer as it will probably run out before his hurricane does. This is probably by far the biggest killer at Masuta for most people, and as long as you stay away from this, then you'll probably be okay. If devotion isn't up, then just make use of surge and bladed dive and just kite away from him. There's no reason for you to be in melee distance, to be honest. So when I was learning this boss, I actually just kited the whole of the first phase, as it just made it a lot easier while I was learning on when the attacks would be coming at what time. So if you do get to the point where you just keep forgetting that the hurricane attack is about to start, then you get caught in it and take a lot of damage, then just start kiting the boss around the room. You can just run up and down the stairs, running from one end to the other, and he will chase you along. He will still use his melee hits, so don't worry about that. But this just means that when he does start spinning, you've already got a head start on him. You'll be able to stay the hell away from him a lot easier. But just keep in mind that if he does catch up with you, you can use devotion, you can surge and bladed dive through him. And I believe if you do surge through him, you will only take one of the hits, so don't worry about it too much. It's definitely something that you can do. The next mechanic that you're going to want to worry about is going to be the purple smoke. Now, this is very, very easy to see as he charges up a lot of purple smoke around him, and this is basically going to hit you for a lot of magic damage. What you're going to want to do is just DPS him until it starts charging up a little bit. You do have a little bit of time, and then just stay the hell away from him. If you're unsure about how long you have, when you're first learning, of course, then you can just stay away from him straight away as soon as you see this. At some point, he will stop running and stop chasing you, and as long as you are out of his reach at the point that he fires off the magic attack, then you won't take any damage. Once you have a better feel for how long it takes for him to charge up this magic attack, you can stand and DPS him for a fair amount of time, and then once it's getting pretty close, you can surge out of the way and you'll be absolutely fine. If you don't move, then you can get hit, 1, by the magic attack that he's charging up, and also he will fire off a tsunami as well, which I probably don't need to tell you will deal a hell of a lot of damage. After this, he will rotate back to do more auto attacks and then the hurricane again. So just get ready to kite him and stay away from the hurricane. Check if your devotion's ready. If it is, then by all means you are safe to go on and do some more DPS. Otherwise, just kite him, fire off abilities as you do so, and you'll be good to go. There are a couple of other mechanics in this phase which you don't really need to worry about too much as they won't do that much damage. One is called Pulverize. At this point, basically just keep moving as soon as you see that. You'll have maybe 1 game tick to move when he says I'll pulverize you. If you don't move, then it will deal melee damage to you, but it's not a hell of a lot, so don't worry about it too much. And the other one is Clones. He will summon a clone in melee range next to him, and if you are in melee range, then both of them will hit you at the same time. It can do a fair amount of damage, but it's honestly something that you don't need to worry about too much. Just keep your distance from him through phase 1 and you'll be good to go. Okay, so once you phase him at around about half health, then he will levitate above the ground. You will still be able to target him, but you will not be able to do any damage to him whatsoever. So you can basically stop attacking him at this point and keep an eye out around the room as he will summon some thrashing waters. You're going to want to kill these off in melee distance if you can, because this will charge up a protection buff which you'll be relying on for phase 3 to reduce the damage from his special attack in that phase. This is fairly easy to understand. Just pray magic, surge around the room to where the thrashing waters have spawned, get in melee distance and kill them off as quick as you can. They will spawn from both sides of the room. Just head around, bladed dive and surge as quick as you can to get to them. If their thrashing waters start stacking up a little bit, just use devotion with your magic prayer on, as they do attack fairly quick and do quite a bit of damage. You will eat during this phase. Don't panic if you seem like you're eating a lot, as you really won't need all that much for phase 3, if any at all. So once he has finished spawning all of the thrashing waters, you may still have some left. Once he has finished spawning them, he will go into phase 3 and he will start hitting you with range, whether you have killed all of the thrashing waters or not. If you have any thrashing waters left to kill, make sure you kill those off before you change your prayer from magic to range, as his range attacks will do less than the thrashing waters will, so make sure you keep that magic prayer on. Also, his special attack on this phase is a magic damaging hit, so until you do change to range, you don't have to worry about the special attack, so don't panic, get the thrashing waters killed, and then once you've done that, you can move on to phase 3. Phase 3 is very, very easy to deal with, so don't worry about it too much once you've reached this point. You've pretty much got there to the end of the kill, you just need to do a bit of DPS now. Once you get to phase 3, all the thrashing waters are dead, then change to protect from range, as his attacks will be range damage until he does his special attack. When he does his special attack, he will jump into the air. You're going to want to change to protect from magic, and when he lands, he will fire off a magic wave to you. And if you have protect from magic on, and you have charged up plenty of the protection from the buffs from the thrashing waters, then you'll probably take no damage whatsoever, as long as you have that protection on. It will hit you every now and again, but it won't do too much damage, so don't panic. Mechanics wise for phase 3, that is all you need to know. He's going to hit you with range for the majority of the kill, and then you're going to need to change to magic when he jumps in the air, and then straight back to range once you've been hit by the magic hit. Don't panic about anything else. That is all you need to do. The rest is just DPS. So get down your death swiftness, throw your vulnerability bomb out, use your dread nips if you are absolutely going for the best kill speeds you can, and go ahead and DPS to your heart's content. Just keep in mind that every few hits he will jump into the air again, so get ready for that magic prayer. If you are running low on food at this point, you can actually use resonance on the magic hit and just keep your protection from range on. This will heal you for about 5k if it doesn't splash, and it is a very, very good way of keeping your health up if you don't have any food left. Make sure to use devotion if you are running out on food, and don't forget your Excalibur if you haven't used it yet. But congratulations if you've got to this point. That is the end of Masuta, and now we will move on to Seriyu. Okay, so we've done the first two bosses, you've got through, and now we are on the big bad dragon. We're on Seriyu, so we've got to figure out how to kill this badass dragon without getting absolutely destroyed every single time. Well, this boss has a lot of mechanics, but in all honesty, once you have figured out this boss, he's probably easier than the other ones in the first bit of the dungeon. Honestly, this boss becomes a hell of a lot of fun, and it becomes really easy to do. You can no food Seriyu, and to be honest, the only difficult thing here is just basically getting faster kills and trying to the 2 jump cycle, and then eventually I guess the 1 jump cycle. So the overall goal of this kill is going to be DPSing Seriyu down to 7.2 million health. When he gets to 7.2 million or just below, he is going to basically kind of fall asleep, I suppose, or he will like put his head down on the ground, and this will allow you to climb up onto his back. On each side of his head, there will be a certain bit that you can grapple to and climb over, and once you've climbed over, there will be 3 crystals on his back. These crystals are holding him in place, and you're going to need to kill these 3 to finish the fight. You don't need to do the 7.2 million health altogether, you just need to get him down to 7.2 million every time you want to jump up, and then as soon as all 3 crystals are killed, then you are finished the fight and you will get your reward. Of course, that does sound super simple. However, there's a lot of mechanics to stop you from getting 2 Seriyu's back, which will kill you pretty quickly if you don't do it properly. So let's go over those one at a time now, just like we did with the other bosses. Okay, so there's lots of mechanics for Seriyu, but none of them are specifically in an order. They are random as far as I can tell anyway. I've never noticed a pattern to them. So these are things that I'm just going to talk about specifically in the order that I got them in the video you are watching. And then once we've covered them all, you'll be able to keep an eye out for them when you do your fight, and hopefully you'll be able to deal with those in the ways that I do let you know how to do it. To start the fight, what I usually do is devotion just before I aggro Seriyu. That way you will not have any adrenaline cost for that, and you take a little bit less damage, so it's definitely worth using. And also drop down your death swiftness. Do not use your adrenaline potion, as you are going to need this cooldown ready for when you hop up to kill the crystals. You're definitely going to need that, so don't use it at the beginning here, or else it will be on cooldown and you won't have access to it. Okay, so you see me do just that, and the very first mechanic that I get is you will notice on the left-hand side there is a hand of Seriyu, and that's going to smack the ground. And when it does that, there's going to be a tendril sort of black hole thing that appears below your character where you're stood, and you're going to need to move 2 squares away from your position to avoid this. You'll notice I do it pretty much as soon as that hand does hit the ground, as I can just sort of see it in the corner of my eye. This will be something that you pick up with a little bit of practice here, as at first you may miss it a couple of times, but just keep an eye out for that hand if you can. Once you have moved, there will still be a little black hole and a tendril on the floor where you were, but don't go back to that space until it has cleared, otherwise you would take a lot of damage and it can possibly kill you fairly quickly. If you are in your death swiftness, do try and stick to the outside of it, otherwise you may have to walk around your death swiftness in an awkward position, just like I have done in this part of the video, and it's just a lot easier to make sure those portals do spawn on the outside of the death swiftness, so you can move over fairly easily. So the next mechanic that I got was the huge breath that he does, and this does a lot of magic damage. However, because it is magic damage, and because when he does this, he stops attacking you, you can use res and you can take a massive heal from this. This will allow you to pretty much no food Seriyu. You can see this by a little text box will pop up saying Seriyu takes a huge breath, and then you'll notice that he sort of swings his head from the left hand side to the right, and he will fire out like a big fire beam as he does so. Once his head reaches the full right hand side, you will take a massive magic hit. So what you can do is, as soon as you see him say that he takes a huge breath, you can chuck on your shield, you can chuck on resonance, and then you can chuck on soul split. Not having protect from magic on when you use the res here, you can literally go from nearly dead to pretty much full health every single time that you do actually get res. He will use this just a little bit too much for you to res every single one of them. So what I suggest doing is, if you are kind of low health or mid health, then make sure to use devotion or debilitate the second time that he does this, and then every other time he does it, you'll be able to use resonance. What I tend to do now at this point though is just ignore the second one, keep protect from magic on, pretty much just tank the damage that it does, and just focus on DPS, because once you are not worried about getting hit by the other mechanics, you can pretty much no food this whole kill, including tanking one hit of the fire breath and then using the next one to heal fully again. But that is pretty much as simple as that mechanic gets. As soon as you see him say that he takes a huge breath, you're going to chuck on your shield, use resonance, and chuck on soul split. Otherwise, you want to use devotion or debilitate, or just tank it with your magic prayer on, making sure that you do have plenty of health to do so. The next mechanic that I had to deal with was the shadow energy that bursts from Seriyu. This will land on the arena somewhere, and it will just basically send hands directly to where you are when it did land. So for example, if you were off to the left hand side of the room and it landed in the middle, as soon as it does land, it will see where you are and it'll send a line of hands along the ground to your position. If those hands pass through you, they will do quite a lot of damage. However, it is very, very easy to avoid, and there's two ways that you can avoid this mechanic. The first one is wait until the energy lands where it is indicating on the area, and as soon as it does land, just take a couple of steps in a different direction from where you were. It will always go to exactly where you were when it landed, so as long as you move 1 or 2 squares away from where you were when it did land, then it will not pass through you. Basically, just picture a straight line drawing from the point on the map where it does land, going directly to where your character was, and then just step out of that line. As long as you're not in the path of the hands, you won't take any damage. They won't turn to come and get you. That's pretty much all you have to do to deal with this mechanic. So just keep an eye out for where it's going to land, as it will have a marker, and then as soon as it does land, step out the way and you're good to go. The other way you can deal with this mechanic is basically just standing on the marker before it does land. So if he places this marker right by your character and you can stand on top of it before the energy does actually land, once the energy does land, as long as you are stood exactly on top of that marker, it will basically just completely get rid of the whole mechanic. Like, it will not send out any hands, it will just absorb and it will be completely gone. Now, I don't usually tend to do this because sometimes if you misclick, it can literally get you killed straight away, as the hands will be directly right next to you and they'll spawn right on top of you very, very quickly, and that's a lot of damage that you could have avoided, or maybe even a death that you could have avoided as well. Alright, so there's only one more mechanic that we need to go over before you jump up to the crystals, and then of course there'll be those ones to do, but we'll talk about that in just a second. The last mechanic you could get is a triangle of hands that will come out from near Seriyu's head. There's not too much notice that this is going to happen, except for the fact that he will slightly nod his head a little bit, but it's not the most obvious thing, especially if you're learning and you're not really paying attention to all the little things that he is doing, as you're probably watching out for all the other mechanics as well. But as you can see here, a triangle of hands will start appearing from the edge of the arena near Seriyu's head. These will just go directly from that side all the way to the other, and obviously the further along the map they go, then it does sort of spread out, as it does come out in like a triangle shape. This is nice and easy to avoid. All you really need to do is, when you see it come out from one side of the map, just head over to the other side, and if it does come out from the middle, then just pick a side and stick to it. Now, this doesn't mean that you can only have one set of hands. It is possible to get more than one. However, it doesn't really make it that much more difficult to avoid. As long as you have things like bladed dive or surge, you should be absolutely fine. You can surge through these, you can bladed dive through them. As long as you don't stop in the middle of them once you use your surge or bladed dive, you'll be absolutely fine. So what I would suggest doing is, as soon as these appear, just head over to the other side of the area, which is free, and just get nice and cozy over there until the hands have cleared. And then once that's done, you can even move back if that's the side that you need to be on, or if there's hands coming on your other side as well. If there's two lots of hands, then just bladed dive or surge into a free spot. Make sure you can sort of stay to DPS. If not, then just wait for it to clear and then head back afterwards. It's not too much of an issue if while you're learning you don't get constant DPS. Just focus on dealing with the mechanics and slowly getting his health down to that 7.2 mil mark. Now that you know how all of the mechanics before jumping up to the crystals work, it's pretty much just looking out for these at random until you get the health down to the 7.2 mil mark. Alright, so you've got to 7.2 mil health and Seriyu sort of collapses and rests on the platform. You can now head over to either the right hand side or the left hand side of his head, and there'll be grapple options on each side of that to be able to jump over to the platform that his head is connected to. Your goal here is to destroy the 3 crystals that hold him in place. So you're going to want to do as much DPS as you can. This is a massive DPS check, but don't worry if you are someone who is still learning DPS rotations. You can do this in a safe way and you can just make progress and chip away at it. If you have tier 90s and decent gear like that and you are completely new and your DPS isn't all that great, then you could possibly do this in 3 rotations fairly easily. Just jump up, kill 1 crystal each time that you do get to the 7.2 mil and just work on it that way. That's absolutely fine. If it takes you a little bit longer, then don't worry. You can just chip away at your own speed, but just keep in mind that you're going to want to be able to DPS this down as fast as possible just to make your kills faster. The kills can drag out a lot, as you will have to go back down and get him back to 7.2 mil health to jump back up for the next time as well. So you will see as soon as he does phase that I can jump up, I will jump over to the cliff and I will right click one of the black crystals. This will allow me to target it straight away, as sometimes the camera can be a little bit iffy. As soon as I get up, I will click to attack that, and then I will surge forward and use death swiftness. Of course, if you're on magic, you will use your sunshine. If you are on melee, then you will use berserk. And then it's basically just DPS from here. Use your adrenaline potion that you saved, because you're going to need it for here. If you used it earlier, it will be on cooldown, and that's a lot of DPS that you've just missed out on. You can also use dread nips here as long as you take a step back, and if you have Dominion Mines, you can drop them down. However, if you are planning on doing a 2 jump kill, then you want to save the Dominion Mines for the next crystal, so don't use them yet. If you are planning on just doing 1 crystal a jump, then drop your 2 Dominion Mines, step back, drop your dread nips if you have them, and then carry on DPSing. While you are up here, you will see blobs spawn from the middle of the room, and they will head towards Seriyu's head. Each blob that gets into Seriyu's head will be an uber heal on the crystal, so you definitely do not want this to happen. If you can kill off the crystal before the blobs reach the head, then happy days, you can completely ignore it, as the uber heals will not respawn any crystals. If you can kill one off before the blobs reach, then what I would suggest doing is finishing off one of the crystals, letting the uber heals go through, and then starting on the middle crystal. However, for people who are learning, there's a good chance that you will not be able to finish this first crystal off just yet on your first run before the blobs actually reach it. So what do? What you're going to do is, as soon as you see those blobs spawn, you're going to keep an eye on them. As soon as they get a little bit further down the platform, you're going to want to jump down and go back and kill the blobs. Using things like chain or ricochet, and of course things like corrupted blast or corrupted shot, will help you kill these very, very quickly. Just keep in mind that you have to tag them at least once each, otherwise they will just walk past the other ones and go straight into his head and heal it up. Once all the blobs are dead, head back up to the platform and finish off your first crystal. While you are doing this, you will notice a second set of blobs does spawn, and these will start heading towards Seriyu's head again. Don't worry, you don't have to run back down again, as this will automatically throw you off the top of the platform and into the middle of the room. You will be stunned, so you will have to use freedom at this point to get out of that stun. As soon as you get down, spam your freedom key, and as soon as you are free, kill off the blobs. Make sure they don't reach Seriyu, as if they do, it will heal off any progress that you have made on the other crystals. Okay, congratulations. If you can get to this point, and if you can kill off the crystals without them getting uber healed, then you can get a kill even if it does take you 3 or 4 jumps. If you are duo or trioing this boss, you can always just send one person down to clear the blobs and then head back up while the other person stays up the top and continues DPSing. Once all 3 crystals are dead, congratulations, you have finished Seriyu, and hopefully you get a massive scale drop and a lot of money made. Just a heads up, the money from this boss definitely comes from solo. In a solo, you can get a hell of a lot more scales than if you went as a duo or a trio. Unfortunately, that is just the way it is. Okay, so now that you can get kills, how do you improve, and how do you possibly get the 2 jump kills to bring your 12-minute kills down to even something like 6 minutes or less? So, to achieve a 2 jump kill, what you're going to want to aim to do is clear the first crystal off before the first set of blobs actually reach Seriyu's head. You are absolutely going to want Dominion Mines for this. Unless you maybe have an ECB or something like that, you can maybe get away with it if you have really, really good DPS, but I would highly recommend having Dominion Mines. It will make your life a lot better. So you're going to want to jump up, clear off the first crystal before the blobs reach Seriyu's head, and then as soon as you've cleared that, you're going to want to head up to the second crystal and wait for the uber heals to come through. The uber heals come through in sets of 2, and there is 3 different sets. You're going to want to make sure that you use a vulnerability bomb on the middle crystal, and wait for the first set of uber heals to come through. Once you see the first set of uber heals, then throw out your bleeds onto this crystal, and then wait for the second set. As soon as you see the first heal of the second set come through, you're going to want to double click your Dominion Mines, take 1 step back, and then start an onslaught. At this point, you can deploy a dread nip, and you can also use your enhanced Excalibur. This will heal you up, and the dread nip will do a bit of extra damage for you as well. You're going to want to just basically let your full onslaught go and cancel it just before you do die. At this point, if you have time, you're going to want to throw on your bleeds again, and then you'll get pulled down to the arena. Just like I said, the second set of blobs will pull you into the middle of the arena, so spam your freedom key as soon as you get down there and kill off the blobs. Hopefully the crystal should have got below half health. Personally, I do like to see it get to around about 50 to 60k health. At that point, it does make it a little bit easier once you jump up the second time to kill off both crystals. At this point, you're going to want to DPS down to 7.2 mil again and jump up the side that you didn't jump up the first time. This time your rotation is going to be slightly different than the first time. You're going to want to jump up and right click the crystal like I said the first time round, and surge forward, use your death swiftness or sunshine or berserk, drop your Dominion Mines straight away as they will be off of cooldown again, step back, use your dread nips or just start DPSing as much as you can. And what you aim to do in this time is 1, kill off the first crystal before the blobs reach it, but to finish off the kill, you're also going to have to finish off the second crystal as well before it gets healed up. So this is why you use the Dominion Mines on the first crystal this time to get it down quicker, and then hopefully you can get this killed off before the blobs get the uber heals in, and if you can, then hey, you've just done a 2 jump kill, and hopefully Seriyu is going to drop you a hell of a lot of scales. Well, I'm pretty sure I remember saying at the beginning of the video that this will be a quick guide to the bosses. They definitely took a little bit while longer for me to explain than I did initially expect, but hopefully at this point now it has helped you out, and hopefully you have learned quite a lot about the bosses, and I hope that they have become a little bit easier for you to understand and get kills on. Now, this guide is different to the normal ones that you would see on YouTube. However, I have always said that I am not really interested in making guides like that, as personally I don't really enjoy making them, but this is a style of guides that I am actually happy to do if you guys find it helpful. I suppose the way I look at it is kind of like teaching someone you know how to do the boss, basically just explaining the stuff to them as you're doing it along the way. Personally, I learned this game a lot better that way, and I know a few people who do as well, so I figured, you know what, I might as well give it a try, see how you guys react to it, and see if it does help you out. If it doesn't, then hey, I can leave the guides out for the future, not a problem. But if it does help you out, then do let me know in the comments, leave a like in the video so that I know that it has helped, and if it has helped, then I will probably make more of these for the bosses if people are interested. Anyway, I really appreciate you all watching. It definitely has been a fairly long video, and I hope that you did get something out of it. Now, I am not just going to leave it here for you guys to have a load of questions if there is any. Get down in the comments, leave some questions. I will answer probably every single comment that I do get. I am still at the point where I can do that, so I like to do that as much as I can. Leave some questions down there. I will answer them if you have any, and hopefully I can help you get through any sort of confusion that you may have. If you want to maybe even go and learn this boss with some other people, jump into my Discord channel. You can assign yourself the ED roles, and you will also be able to ping other people who have those roles assigned to them in the Looking for Group channel. It is getting a little bit more active in there, so hopefully you guys can get involved and enjoy it, as it would be awesome to see you guys all PVMing together, and hopefully I'd even be able to join it at some point as well. Anyway, again, I really appreciate you all watching. Thank you so much for doing so. I hope the video helped. If it did, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye. As always, thank you so much to my channel members. We have Andy V and Griffo Tubes. You guys are absolutely awesome, so thank you very much. If anyone else is interested in seeing the perks that you do get for being a channel member, you will get things like early access to videos with no ads, stuff like that, some emotes and stuff. But there is a join button next to the subscribe button if you want to check those perks out.